Well, good evening. Sunday night, you know what that means. Bedtime stories, Bucky style, I guess. Well, before I go any further, this stream is intended for mature audiences only. So, thank you very much, Mr. Modman. So, viewer discretion is advised. Like it states in the title, it is 18 plus, and trust me, this story's that for a reason. Right, that's the legalities at the way. I can't get sued. I have issued a warning.
Hi,
Yeah, I'm good, Ruth. Thank you very much. How are you? I love that sound alert. Look, cut out. Hey, kiddo. So, yeah. No cannibals this week, I'm afraid, guys. Although, by the end of this story, you might be wishing I'd stuck to the people eating people theme for the last couple of weeks. Because this one's a doozy. And, right, I found this by complete accident. I was going to mix it up and do 3 short stories this week, all on the same theme. But then I found this particular story and thought, no, this deserves a full stream. This story that I found, I wasn't aware of it. Stumbled upon it by accident. The case is groundbreaking. Okay, this paved the way for modern forensics. You'll find out as the story progresses, obviously. It's not a nice story. And to be honest with you, it's probably every parent's worst nightmare, I'm not gonna lie. So this is not for the faint-hearted, this one. To get the right part of my little book. Love my book. Yeah, you will be, kiddo. Because this doesn't even have... No, like, last week when they were eating people, I kind of had a wee bit of sympathy. This, bad guy gets no sympathy in this one. But it is one that will shock. It shocked the shit out of me. Is it just me or am I being a wee bit laggy? Thank you for repeating that public service announcement, because I really, really don't want to get sued, and this is not family friendly, okay? This is not. Harry Potter cauldron, yes it is. Got it for my Christmas from my husband. Yeah, I think it's just maybe because I'm the animation and the overlays, because it is running animated in the background. It could be that, but hey, it is what it is. I'm not getting any warnings, so I'm no overly concerned. But I've actually got 2. I got 2 for my Christmas, which is kind of cool. So I've always got a backup, although one of them's still in the box in a bag there. Oops. Right, so tonight's story is about Helen Priestley. Now, little 8-year-old Helen Priestley had been sent to the shops by her mum at lunchtime to buy a loaf of bread. like she was pretty much every day. Except on the 21st of April 1934, little Helen didn't return home. Now, the shop that she went to, it was a baker's, was near our family home in at, now, I know this street, so, but my pronunciation might be off, so bear with me. 61 Urquhart Street in Aberdeen. I actually don't know that because we've walked up in Aberdeen a lot. Right. Tall, fair-haired and bright, Helen was well known in the neighbourhood, and while she was quiet, she was confident. So, normal 8-year-old girl. Everybody knew her. Now, Helen's mother, father, friends and neighbours all feared the worst. Helen hadn't just wandered off. Someone had taken the little girl. Now, within a couple of hours, the police had been informed and hundreds of local people volunteered to search every nook and cranny of the area. The biggest search in the city's history went on all night. You don't even get that now. You know, so hundreds of people searching every bit they could find for this wee girl. Now, she went missing at lunchtime. So around dinner time, this search started. Now, at 2 a.m, Helen's exhausted father was eventually persuaded to go home for a few hours' sleep. A neighbour, Alexander Parker, promised that he'd go to his house and wake him again at 5 a.m. to resume the search. So it's like, right mate, go home, got a couple of hours cap, I'll come and get you at 5 and we'll go back out, but you need to get some sleep. Which is fair enough, the guy had been searching since dinner time. He would have been exhausted. Now, bear in mind, this is 1934. No, exactly, a lot of street lights and stuff, and it's April in Aberdeen, it would have been pitch black by 9 o'clock at night. Now, as promised, Parker entered the Priestley's close at around 5 a.m. and he was surprised to see a large blue Hessian bag lying against the wall. Curious, he pulled the bag open and immediately dropped it again. His whole body filled with horror and disgust as little Helen's dead eyes looked up at him. So, yeah. As you can probably tell, little Helen has been killed. Searchers, friends, family and the police had been up and down the close repeatedly since the little girl disappeared. Her own father had walked wearily by at 2 a.m. and there had been no bag seen or reported. They'd been up and down here all day, nobody had seen this bag. Someone, most probably the killer, had placed the bag containing the 8-year-old girl's body there between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. So, they knew that the dad had went to his bed at 2 a.m. and they knew that they had a couple of hours window to drop this bag there where they wouldn't be seen. Why was she killed? Why was the bag just dropped at the door. Why does it look like I've got a squint? Oh. Really does, I don't know why. Could just be the angle of the camera, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. They were the first of many questions. My contacts are fine. That needed answered in the search for little Helen's murderer. Helen had been murdered alright. The poor little girl had been abducted and strangled by person or persons unknown. Actually, I don't think it is. I think it's maybe just the lag for the camera that's making it look as if I have got a squint, and in fact I really don't. Probably one of the few in the family that don't have a squint. Right. But, as we know, as usually happens with these stories, the worst was yet to be discovered. Not only had the poor little girl been murdered, the wee lassie had deep bruising on her inner thighs and her sexual organs had been mutilated. So not only was there a child killer on the loose, but it was a sexual child killer. I did warn you this was not a nice story. Okay, so yeah. Like I said, every parent's worst nightmare. Now, news of Helen's injuries were quickly leaked to the public. Soon, those who had been searching for the little girl were joined by even more folk and vigilante groups. They began patrolling the area with pick shaft handles and handmade clubs. They turned into a vigilante mob to try and get this little girl's killer. Police were quickly losing control of Aberdeen streets and prayed they found the killer before the angry mob did. Me, mob justice, it wouldn't have bothered me in the slightest had the mob got them. But that's just me. But having these mobs in patrolling the streets day and night was ensuring that it was very unlikely the killer would strike again. So, yeah, the police wanted to catch the killer before the mob. Fair enough. But the mob was keeping the streets safe at the same time, you know. They're just going to risk snatching and killing another kid if there's an angry mob walking about with pickaxe shafts and clubs and stuff. Police carried out door-to-door interviews in one of the biggest operations the city had ever seen. One neighbour reported hearing a high-pitched scream from a house in the Priestley Close around lunchtime, and later a slater from outside the area who had been working in the back of the close that day also reported hearing a screech around the same time. So people had heard, they just didn't know what they'd heard. Then there was the blue Hessian bag. It bore distinctive marks and a fading Canadian export stamp. 1934, folks. It's not like you can just get something sent over from Canada quite easily, so it's pretty good leads, I would say. With a few inquiries, the police ascertained, oh, that's a big word for me on a Sunday night, that it was used for transporting flour. And there wasn't many outlets in Scotland, let alone Aberdeen. But there was one, a bakery close to the Priestley family home. Well, isn't that handy? Oh. There, a baker remembered that a woman had come in asking for a bag some time before, and he'd given her one of the blue Canadian bags. He provided a rough description of her, but not enough to pinpoint who she was. It's fair enough. It's some time ago. It doesn't say how long ago it was, but I'm sure if it had been in like the last couple of days, it would say it was the last couple of days. So it has been a wee while. That the police decided to look closer to home. The Priestleys and Helen were popular with everyone. Well, almost everyone. There's always one. Doesn't matter how well loved you are. Behave. There's always somebody that doesn't like you. I'm just rolling a quick ciggy. So, yeah. Now, like I said, I'd never heard this story before, and I was going to do it as Callum, everyone likes me. Well, I sure hope so. I definitely should, especially with the way this story's going, I sure hope so. I mean, I seem to be quite a well-liked person, and I seem to be quite popular, but I know there's people out there that don't like me. I don't particularly give a damn, but I am aware of the fact. I know that in my younger days I can be quite tempestuous, or a bit of a heinous bitch. But can somebody do me a favour actually? Can somebody hit one of my sound alerts to make sure they're working? Because I've no idea if they're working. I hope they're working.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Cheers. No, cause hi, how are you? Cut out. Oh, and there's The Walking Dead. Cheers, Wraith. Cheers, Janj. No, it was just hi, how are you? Cut out quite quick on the SpongeBob one. Really is a bit of an odd one to have during this stream, but hey, SpongeBob. I grew up in the 90s.
Hi, how are you?
Yay, it worked! Yay! Right. But yeah, SpongeBob, I'm good. Thank you. Right, so little girl went missing. Little girl's body was discovered pretty much next door to the home after a large-scale search. And it now would appear that there is at least one person out there that doesn't like the family. Everybody seemed to like them, apart from someone. Let's continue. There was bad blood between them and another family in the close. The Donalds. It all started over something so trivial that the Priestleys couldn't even remember what caused it to begin with. But they described how Jeannie Donald, in particular, seemed to keep the bad blood flowing. So this Jeannie Donald's obviously got an issue. But, I mean, the Priestleys can't remember why. But Jeannie Donald was the woman of her house, and even picked on young Helen by scowling at her in the street and chasing her from playing in the close. Her husband was a barber, and they had a daughter, also named Jeannie. Young Jeannie was a similar age to little Helen, and she would go on to become one of the most valuable witnesses in the brutal murder of young Helen. Oh, for goodness, I cannot keep this long. Young Jeannie Donald would tell the police that on the day Helen went missing, she noticed that the bread in her home was a different type than what they normally had. Now, remember, 1934, right? You're buying a loaf of bread, you've maybe got 3 or 4 to choose for. It's not like today where you've got like 30 or 40 different choices. You've got a couple of choices, and you usually go for the same one over and over again. Well, young Jeannie noticed that it was a different make of bread that day. Which, to us, the didn't have Warburton say about a Hovis, it's nothing. But back then, it was noticeable. Oh, for the love of... Now, sure enough, the local baker confirmed that the loaf in question was in fact the very type that Helen bought for her mother every day. That was enough evidence for the police, who were now desperate for results. Because remember, they've still got an angry mob out there wanting to kill somebody. Because this little girl has been snatched, raped and murdered right under their nose. They are baying for blood. So the police, they need to make an arrest, and quickly. Now, Jeannie Donald and her husband were arrested. But, those papers flying everywhere. Before the police could escort the couple down the stairs to the waiting van, an angry crowd had surrounded the building, baying for blood, and quite rightly so. I mean, buying a different loaf of bread nowadays is none. Like I said, if they've not got Warburtons, buy Kingsmill. If you can't get Kingsmill, you buy Hovis. It's no big deal. Back then, that was enough for an arrest, because you never went different. You could only get certain things. And they should have shut one and mass producing the millions. I mean, these were like hand-baked breads. If you found one you liked, you stuck to it, you know. Police eventually battled their way through the crowd, but when they arrived at the police station, another angry mob was waiting. So, 1934. No mobile phones. But yet, news go that quickly for the arrest, for the close, the police station, that a mob had already formed there by the time the van got there. These people weren't fucking around. Sorry, F-bomb. See. I know it's an 18 plus, but they're trying to avoid that one. But no, these guys were not messing around. The whole city was united in fury at the killers of little Helen Priestley. So much so that the poor little mite, right, get this, she had to be buried in a secret ceremony so that the family could bury her in peace. In 1934. However, had the lynch mob got a hold of Jeannie Donald's husband that night, they would have made a very grave mistake. Because obviously the little girl's been strangled and raped, and it makes sense that you would think they've arrested this couple. It's got to be him. I thought the same. Had to be the husband. No. Within a day, colleagues and customers at the barber shop where he worked confirmed that Mr. Donald had been there the entire day that little Helen had been killed and taken. So he was working while this search was going on. When she went missing, when she was sent to the shop, he was at his work. He couldn't have done it. He had an ironclad alibi. So, he was released without charge, because he never done it. But, as we know, court of public opinion is completely different. Even though the man had been proved to be innocent, he had to take his daughter and flee the area in fear of their lives. Because this mob were out for blood. Jeannie Donald went on trial for the killing of 8-year-old Helen Priestley at Edinburgh High Court on Monday the 16th of July 1934. Less than 3 months after the heinous crime took place. Less than 3 months and they were already at court. Nowadays it takes years to even half the time find out who done it. Night Raven, hi! Thanks for jumping in. So, 20th of April, this little girl was taken and killed. And the 16th of July, same year, there's somebody up on trial for it. In 1934. See, I stopped myself. That's brilliant. Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. How's the rest of your stream? It wasn't just the people of Aberdeen that were moved and angered by the killing of little Helen. The cobbled yard outside the courthouse was covered with angry people from dawn. They knew. These mobs, they knew. I saw that. I saw that you'd switched to Fortnite. I stayed lurking for a wee while and noticed that you had switched to Fortnite. Hair keeps getting in my face. So, yeah. So, angry people all over. Cheers. It keeps falling down over my face and I can't see, and I'm trying to read for a tiny book that with really bad handwriting because my hands don't work and my printer didn't work. Not getting into that. No, not doing it. And breathe. Let's not pick a fight with the printer again today. Right, so courthouse covered in people. Really, really angry, pissed off Scottish people. Lots, hundreds of them. Yeah. Don't tempt me, kiddo, don't tempt me. Right. Lines of uniformed police were drafted in to keep them back. As the mob grew in numbers, the people outside calling for Jeannie Donald's blood. saw her as nothing more than a callous sex killer. It's exactly what... I mean, there's... The evidence is there. I mean, so far all we've got is a loaf of bread. But, remember at the beginning, I did say this case revolutionised forensic science. That's why it grabbed my attention as much as it did. Now, inside the courtroom, it was the Crown's job to prove that Jeannie Donald was indeed a cold-blooded child killer. And to do so, they intended to use 164 witnesses and hundreds of productions. That was the exact wording, that the productions, I'm assuming they're meaning pieces of evidence. I don't know, I couldn't find... I was up to 4 o'clock this morning finishing this off. I mean, there, Mr. Modman, he'll confirm. I was up to 4 in the morning. I couldn't find any clarification on that, so I'm assuming 164 witnesses and hundreds of pieces of evidence. In 1934! It blows my mind that the capabilities are there. Right, Jeannie Donald pleaded not guilty. Obviously. Saw that coming. But she couldn't provide going to be a murder because... Yeah, going to be a murder. Why did you kill her? She was researching a murder. Yeah. This ever takes over, I'm hiring a research assistant because this stuff's dark, okay? Even for me. Like... Thank you. See, I thought that's what it was, but I couldn't get any clarification. Thank you so much for clearing that up for me, Wraith. So I was right, it was items of evidence that they were produced. So, yeah, production. So, thank you. So, yeah, Jeannie Donald pleaded not guilty, but she couldn't provide any witnesses or productions. Yeah. And was without an alibi for the time the little girl was abducted, killed and dumped. The Crown were about to make Scottish legal history by using forensic evidence. Now, let's be real, right? The Scots would get a lot of flack, right? Ginger alcoholics that wear skirts. There, I say that. But when it comes to science, we have always been 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of the game. Okay? Forensic science, medical science, fucking telephone, electricity, light bulbs, steam engine. Scotland have always been ahead of the game when it comes to science. Yeah. Pretty much the same thing, really. I mean, we are pretty much stereotypical Scots. Except if you go far enough up, we're not actually even Scottish. But that's a tale for another evening. Yeah. Right. Key to this. So, yeah, forensic evidence are about to make history. Key to this was Professor John Glaister. Apologies again if the pronunciations are off. Of Glasgow University. He had been studying hair. Here. Yeah. And was able to prove without doubt that strands of hair found on the child's body matched hair found on Jeannie Donald's hairbrush. In 1934, I know I keep repeating this, but this is bloody, see, I stopped myself, amazing that in 1934 he was able to prove that the hair on this little girl's body was in fact the same hair that came from this woman's hairbrush. That's insane. Her hair was also found inside the blue Hessian flour sack. So her hair's all over this little girl's body and inside the bag that she was dumped in. Thank you very much, guys. Hello from Spain. I've actually noticed an influx of Spanish viewers coming to my chat. Welcome. If I say something that you don't understand because of the Scottish accent, then please ask and I will try and make it easier to understand, if that makes sense. But yeah, I have noticed an influx of Spanish viewers recently. Tonight and in, when was last night? Thursday's Fortnite stream. Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for the follow, Roxiquito, I believe. I'm sorry if I slaughtered that pronunciation. But thank you very much for the follow and welcome. Like I said, if I say something that you don't understand, ask me to repeat it. If necessary, I'll just change the wording. These are Scottish stories, so a lot of it is in local dialect that even I struggle to pronounce sometimes, but if necessary, I've got no issues changing the wording. So, we've got this professor from Glasgow University who's been able to prove that hair
Hi, how are you?
from Jeannie Donald's hairbrush is without a doubt the same hair that was found on this little girl's body and inside the flour sack that she was dumped in. Other forensic boards found fibres from the sack in the Donald's home and bacterial growth inside the sack matched that in their house. Now remember, this is 1934, they don't exactly have central heating the way that we have it now, so there is damp, there is mould. And again, 1934, and they're able to provide an exact match to the bacteria that's grown in the bag and in the house. Amazing, the capabilities that they had back then. These pieces of evidence alone are pretty damning, but the trump card had yet to be played. So they've got all this and they're still holding back. Kind of makes you think, what have they got next? If they can do all this, what else they got? Because they're trying to convict a woman of a sex crime on a child. Gonna need to play. So obviously they've got something. Now, Jeannie Donald's defence was relying on discrediting the Crown's case. They would use the only argument that they had, and it was basic biology. Jeannie Donald was a woman. The little girl was raped, so the injuries proved that. So how could she be the killer? She's a woman. She couldn't have raped this little girl. It's already been proved that she was sexually assaulted before she was killed, so she couldn't have done it because she's a woman. Now, here's the trump card. As good as a defence as that was, and it was a good defence, the Crown prosecution, they were already 3 steps ahead. They knew that was going to be her defence, because it's a common sense defence. 3 pathologists, independent of each other, examined this little girl's body. And they discovered that her injuries were caused by the shaft of a hammer or a broom handle to make it look as if she had been sexually assaulted and killed by a man. So, it was faked. So Jeannie's defence is gone. Oh, I'm a woman, I couldn't have done it. Yeah, you could, because the injuries were fake to make it look like a man had done it. So you could have done it. So nice try, but yeah, run along. It was the most damning piece of evidence at all. Again, 1934 people. Fingerprints weren't even getting used then. I don't think they started getting used until the 40s. I don't have an exact date on that. It took the jury 18 minutes. Hey, Spiral. 18 minutes to find Jeannie Donald guilty of murder. 18 minutes. Wow. I mean, the Crown Prosecution Service have already blown it out the park with all this forensic evidence in 1934, and the jury's like, nah, you know what, no. Slam dunk case here. 18 minutes. It's not even an episode of Attack on Titan. What? 18 minutes? Can't even make your dinner in that, Tom. Bloody, it takes me longer to go to the shop and back. It's insane. Outside, an angry mob. Again, lots of angry mobs here, people. Can't really blame them, but lots of angry mobs howled for Jeannie Donald's blood. Inside, however, was a completely different scene. Judge Lord Aitchison was reduced to tears. He had never before worn the black cap. So and here he was sentencing a woman to death for the brutal killing of a child. He'd never sentenced anybody to death before. And here he was setting a woman to the hangman. It's got to take it out of you. Jeannie Donald was driven off through the screaming crowds to Craig Inch's prison in Aberdeen, where she was to remain until her sentence was carried out. You would think that would be the end of it. Slam dunk case, 18 minutes to decide on her guilt. Forensic evidence at the wazoo. They had it all, sentenced to death. On you go, away, you're hanging. End of. On August 3rd, 1934, 2 weeks later, a lawyers lodged an appeal. However, they weren't very hopeful of its success. They just done it for the sake of it. Lawyers were getting rich out of this case. Obviously they were. The next day, 4th of August, the Lord Provost of Aberdeen had his summer holiday interrupted by a letter from the Secretary of State. He rushed to Craiginches prison to break the news. Jeannie Donald was not to meet the hangman after all. She was to serve life in jail instead. She was secretly transferred to the women's jail in Duke Street, Glasgow. They gave her a stay of execution and changed her sentence from death to life in prison. Okay, not everybody agrees with the death penalty. I can dig that. Life in prison. It's still better than nothing, right? It's not known how Helen's poor parents reacted when they heard the life of the woman who murdered their 8-year-old daughter had been spared, nor how they felt upon her release a pathetic 10 years later. In 1944. Yeah. She got let out. And unfortunately, it gets worse. Now, she was described, in her 10 years in prison, she was described as a model prisoner. And when her husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer, she was granted compassionate leave to care for him in his dying days. She was released from prison after 10 years for the brutal, horrible abduction and murder of an 8-year-old child over a feud so insignificant that her own parents couldn't remember what caused it to begin with. And she gets let out on compassionate grounds. Where the hell was her compassion when she abducted and mutilated an innocent 8-year-old girl? The system is broke. 10 years. That little girl would only have been 18 when that monster was released. It's disgusting. Now, the Scottish public, they wanted to lynch this woman, this child-killing monster. Yet she was set free. Just 10 years when she had been originally sentenced to death. She was supposed to hang, and they cut her loose after 10 years on compassionate leave. Jeannie Donald died in 1976, aged 81. She lived for another 32 years. Without ever admitting her guilt or explaining why she killed that little girl. Helen's parents never got closure. Jeannie Donald couldn't even admit what she'd done, let alone tell them why. After her release, she lived the rest of her life under a new name. They even gave her a new name. What's that all about? Today, in Aberdeen's Allenvale Cemetery, stands a small white headstone bearing the name Helen Priestley. But when crime historian Bruce Colley first discovered it in 2016, he was appalled at the state of disrepair and reported it to the cemetery workers. But his concerns were ignored. So he went to Aberdeen Bereavement Services, and the broken and damaged headstone was cleaned and reset and brought back to a condition which pays proper respects to little Helen. Since its repair in 2019, 2 and a bit years ago, several people have laid flowers at the grave, ensuring that little Helen Priestley's memory lives on. And there ends the tale of a little 8-year-old girl going about her day, sent to pick up a loaf of bread by her mum. Same loaf of bread that would eventually within days, lead to her killer. A woman that didn't like the family, so killed a little girl and made it look like she'd been raped. Sentenced to hang less than 3 months later, to be told, nah, it's alright, we'll let you live, but you're going to spend the rest of your life in jail. And after serving just 10 stinking years. Bad girl, don't do it again, on you go. Compassionate grounds because your husband, the one you tried to frame for fucking murder and rape, he's dead, so away look after him. And be with your own daughter. A daughter that's the same age, or would be the same age as the little girl that you murdered in cold blood for no reason, other than you didn't like her mummy and daddy. Stories like this, they just... they don't... Oh. Go for it. And yes, kiddo, I said 8 years old at the very beginning. But yeah, Rafe. I never actually found this. Right, wee bit more information that's just been sent to me. Mr. Modman, can I get a shout out for Wraith for this? So, Jeannie Donald was arrested and went on trial July 1934, which we know. It was concluded that she decided to teach Helen a lesson for her impertinence and jumped out from under the stairs. Helen could have vomited in fright and choked to death. Mrs. Donald could have simulated the rape with some blunt instrument to deflect suspicion from herself before putting the child's body in the sack. Interesting. But no, kiddo, as for your PM, bear with me. Nope, that's last week's. The very first line of this story. Little 8-year-old Helen Priestley. There we go. See? Ha. But, yeah. I don't know what makes this story worse. The fact that Donald got out after 10 years when she should have been sentenced to death. Purple burglar alarm. Thank you very much for the follow. Love that name. Purely because of the whole Scottish thing. Alright, sorry, I thought I did. Or was I maybe keeping that? But you see, like I said, she got out after 10 years on compassionate grounds, which, really? And then the fact that this little girl's grave was left to rot. To the point that even when reported to the cemetery workers, look, this wee girl, you need to do something about this grave. Yeah, no our problem, we don't care. I mean, this little girl's failed time and time again. And her only crime was being an 8-year-old girl and playing in her clothes. And close, by the way, it's Block Flats tenement, the communal area outside. So yeah, this story, it's, I mean, like I said, I had originally planned on doing 3 separate stories tonight, but this one, it struck a chord with me, and it was like, no, this wee girl, her story needs told. So, like, obviously, when I was doing Sonny Bean and the Beanie Babies in the cave, that was getting told from the bad guy's perspective, so to speak. Last week, when it was Christie the Clake, again, it was his perspective. But this one, it's more, because they did what they did, but to begin with, they were doing it out of necessity. What happened to that wee girl? That just... And the fact that a grave... I mean, people are laying flowers at this little girl's grave, even now. Almost 100 years later. It's like 88 years later. And they're still laying flowers at this little girl's grave. So she is still being remembered. And the council are like, no, I don't care if her grave goes... I don't care if her grave goes to rat and ruin. No, our problem. We're not going to fix it. So this historian, crime historian in the area, he's like, no, this isn't standing. So he actually went out and I don't know what all he done, but he went to all these different people and Aberdeen Bereavement Services, and he lobbied to get this grave fixed. And they listened. 3 years it took them, but the grave got repaired. And people are still laying flowers there 88 years after she died. It's just, it seems to be one injustice after another, and it doesn't sit well. And the fact that the one that done it, I mean, to be honest with you, whether it was premeditated or whether she had jumped out and scared her and it caused the girl to vomit and choke and die, whatever the cause, it's just, she got it 10 years and then she got to live. But look, last week, where he got to live and grow old and die. Endings like that, they don't sit well with me, and it sucks. It is what it is, and unfortunately I'm going to see a hell of a lot more where they just yeah, I don't know, it just, when, I mean, at least with the Sonny Bean one and the Beanie Brigade and the Beanie Babies and the Caves, and they all get caught, they all saw justice. Christie's crew, some of them got caught. He went on to marry and have beautiful babies and lived happily ever after. And then deathbed confession of a madman, I guess. But this one, she never even confessed. She just, no, wasn't me, didn't do it. But because she behaved herself when she was in prison, it's alright when you go tend to your dying husband, even though he had to flee in fear of his and his daughter's life because of her actions. Yeah, I don't know. That just leaves a bad taste in the mouth, I guess. But anyway, got a couple of ideas for next week. And I promise no more cannibals for a wee while, okay? I'm staying away from the cannibals. But hey, on a lighter note, I guess, none of that happened in Ayrshire. Yay! It seems to only be the cannibals that come here, not the child killers. But yeah, so then he ended up in Ayrshire. That's good, I guess, right? They always end up here. Yeah. Well, like I said, at least with the Sonny Bean case, there was actual justice, you know. It wasn't even a trial in that case, just straight to death. But, so I've got a few other stories that I'm working on, and Hopefully some of them will have a... And they died because of what they did. Or at least they died a very old man or woman in jail. Never saw the light of day again. That would be nice. I knew it was going to be dark, but I mean, come on. 10 years for taking the life of your child and covering it up. All because of what? Worst case scenario, she was a wee bit loud out in the bloody lobby? Whoop-de-feckin' do? You've got a kid the same age, she's bound to be loud. Kids at 8, young kids, tweens, they are loud, you know? Kids in general, they're noisy. You don't want to live near noisy blooming kids. Don't live in a block of flats in fucking Aberdeen city centre. Jeez. Yeah, no problem, Care. Thanks for lurking. I appreciate it. But yeah, kids are noisy and doesn't give you the right to do that to them. Just that. Yeah. Yeah, but he's at the cute babbling stage. He just sits and babbles away quite happily. So... Oh yeah, Squirtle and Jiggly are definitely loud. Like, I mean... Bob and Junior, they were loud at that age. Kids are loud. It's kind of what they do. But, I mean, this case, it was the first, one of the first on the planet to get a conviction using forensic science. So it revolutionised court cases and the judicial system as a whole, across the whole planet. And they secured a conviction within 18 minutes of deliberations. But she got 10 years in jail. The thing is, though, that again, the thing that I can't find, why was the sentence, the original death sentence, why was that quashed? Was it purely because she was a woman? Because I very much doubt that, because they were still hanging women up until the death penalty was done away with in Britain. I know because I'm actually researching for a few stories. So, but yeah, this one just leaves a bit of a sore taste in the mouth, you know. Like I said, it was fantastic. The work they done, the forensic evidence, and the fact that they made an arrest because of a loaf of bread. So all that's absolutely amazing. It's just the system let her down. No the police, no the courts, none of that. It was the system that let that little girl down, and then continued to let her down after her death. Long after her death, to the point that in 2016 her grave was derelict. It was broken, lying flat and crumbling. And someone had to fight for 3 years to get it repaired. And I've seen pictures of the grave, and I actually know the graveyard that the grave is in, because I did work up in Aberdeen quite a lot. And it is a tiny white headstone. And it has been fully restored. But Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for tonight. Unfortunately, there's no life lessons in this one. Like last week, I wasn't even like last week. Last week, he just escaped justice altogether. This week, they messed up and let a child killer go. Whether it was an accident or no, we're never going to find out because she didn't ever tell anybody. She never admitted it. Very welcome, Kia. So she never admitted her guilt. She never explained what happened. So even if it was an accident, she still went to such great detail to cover it up and to make it look like this kid had been sexually assaulted and murdered by a man just to cover her own tracks, to the point that her own husband was arrested and her own daughter's life was put at jeopardy. It just didn't sit well. But anyway, yep, gonna call it a night. Can't promise that next week's story will have a happier ending, but like I said, I'm working on a couple, so I'll try and find one where at least the victim gets some form of justice, I guess. But I'll be back Tuesday. Yep, I'll be back on Tuesday for Metal and Mayhem, which will probably be Fortnite, because that's what I do best. I'm kind of good at that. Wraith, Ginge, don't say nothing. So I'll be back Tuesday. Ginge will be on tomorrow. Don't know what doing yet. Be sure to check him out. But until then, behave yourselves. Look after each other. And I'll catch you all on... My mouse is just still working. In that. But I will catch you all on Tuesday night. Bye bye now.